What's up, everybody? It's the At Home Dad here. Hopefully bringing you the first in a series of short little YouTube clips like this where we talk about psychology and statistics in fantasy football so that you can make better decisions on a week-to-week basis and long-term in your dynasty leagues. So the first thing that we're going to be talking about over the next couple of these series is biases. And the first bias that I want to bring up is something called primacy bias. Or primacy bias. And what that is remembering what happens first. It's something that all human beings do. It's something that you'll see again and again. It's the reason why we've come up with there's no second chance for a first impression. First impression is most important because that's what people remember. People remember it in terms of product development. People remember it in terms of job interviews. If you show up late to a job interview or if you have mistakes on your resume and you're sending that out, chances are you're not going to get an opportunity to even, get a fair shake in that job interview because the first impression is going to be negative. So having a positive first impression is so important in real life, but also in fantasy football as well. And what we're going to see here is right now I have the stats from Pro Football Focus up using their really fun play finder, and this is just the rookie running backs. All right, and I wanted to highlight these guys especially because it's week 1, but it's also our first time looking at any of these guys, and the reason why this is so important for primacy bias is because you're going to remember this happening first. You're going to remember that Clyde Edwards-Helaire on Thursday coming back had himself a great game. And you're going to remember his 19.8 PPR points. And you're going to remember that emotion. We'll talk a little bit about emotion and how that impacts your memory as well, and hopefully a future one of these. But if you think about, what do we remember from Clyde Edwards-Helaire, from JT, from Dobbins, versus what do we remember from guys like Antonio Gibson and Cam Akers, your memory is going to be skewed based on those factors because of what we saw first. We saw first Clyde Edwards-Helaire looking elusive, scoring touchdowns, completely overlooking the fact he was overlooked in the passing game. We're going to see JT have something like 6 receptions and looking really good out there, but we may forget that he only got his start because of Marlon Mack going down. We might, be conflicted with what's going on with Nyheim Hines and his phenomenal day that he had as well. But what's going to happen is because of primacy bias, because of that bias of you remember most strongly what happens first, it's going to be more difficult for you to step back and be able to say, throughout the season, is Clyde Edwards-Helaire as good as he was that first time? Is Jonathan Taylor as good as he was that first time? Is J.K. Dobbins as good as he was that first game? And it's going to be even more difficult for you to be able to step outside of that bias and be able to ask that same question for these guys down here that did not perform as well. Is Antonio Gibson really that bad? Or if you watched the actual game, you saw that he was getting a lot of usage in that game and faced a really strong Eagles defensive front and kind of a poor showing for Washington's offense. So as the season progresses, do we see Antonio Gibson getting better? And are we going to believe it based on our primacy bias? So one of the things that helps with primacy bias is just being aware of it and being able to say, I remember this being the first thing. And I can say, now I have 2, 3, 4 weeks of data, of information, of these points telling me that, maybe Jonathan Taylor, and this hurts me to say it on this one, I'm using it as an example, maybe Jonathan Taylor isn't as good as we think he is because the data is showing that he's not able to produce it on the field over the next couple of weeks, even though in his first week, he had a really strong showing. Same thing with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, same thing with J.K. Dobbins. And also looking over the next couple of weeks, maybe Cam Akers gets things going and gets more touches and really looks like a better running back than Malcolm Brown. And that's something that we need to be able to weigh when we're looking at these players and looking at them over the next couple of weeks. So first of these series, primacy bias. seeing what happens first and having that stick in your brain. It happens with all of us in our memory. And how you overcome that is just by being aware of it. Most of these biases you can overcome by being aware of them. So we might see these guys at the top stay at the top, and that's great. And that's what we're hoping for if you have them on your team. But we might also see these guys down here start creeping up, and we have to be ready to accept that if that's what the data is showing, if that's what the film is showing. So one more time, at FF the At Home Dad. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. I'd really appreciate it. Follow me on Twitter, and definitely get to gridironexperts.com to follow all the great stuff that the team over there is putting together. I'll be having the running back by committee review coming out either week 2 or week 3, a weekly thing looking at running backs and how they're being used, looking at that data. And hopefully I'll see you soon, either on the Fantasy Facts podcast or back here at another one of these. Catch you on the flip side.